Holy smokes. Wow. We are live. We are live. Welcome to college football's peek around the corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football, and man, it is a task. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends. And if you want to support this college football's rebel outpost with a donation, hit the $ where you make a comment and I'll get to you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody, and I mean everybody, into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid, PATC family. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments in the chat room, with your phone calls later in the show. Breaking news. Bill Belichick, the 6-time Super Bowl champion of the NFL, one of the greatest, the legend of head coaching in the NFL. According, per the title of this live show, per Inside Carolina, Bill Belichick North Carolina is finalizing a deal to land Bill Belichick. It just needs an approval, but it is well down the tracks. Ladies and gentlemen, it's happening. It's happening. Bill Belichick is going to be the new head coach of North Carolina. North Carolina, holy smokes. I don't know how long it's been. All these days, all these weeks, they just blend in together. But if you've been a PATC family member, a peek around the corner member, if you've been a member of this family, a member of this community, if you come in and out, that's just fine. But you know that we've coined the phrase. This is a national college football YouTube channel. A couple years ago, we coined the phrase the Great Gold Rush of 2000 because of the expanded playoffs. We coin phrases and we open up the Holy Smokes Theater, and 2025 is the year of Bubba. We don't know exactly how. We didn't know exactly when. We still don't know all the ramifications. We don't. I got asked today, what does this mean? What does all this mean? I don't know how it's going to happen. First of all, and what I'm talking about and we're going to get back to this. Dennis Dodd, just a little bit ago, puts out a tweet. We're at a very dangerous tipping point. AAC Commissioner Tim Pernetti on the inevitable entrance of outside investment in college sports. He says that PE, private equity, is inevitable. Of course, we open up the Holy Smokes Theater, the fourth drama we've ever covered. Getting a head start on everybody else. The invasion of private equity. Private equity needs certainty. And then, of course, I subtweeted, I said or posted, once House versus NCAA settlement comes to its conclusion, ... But here is the disappointing part of it. I don't know what ... is. I don't know. I don't know what the ... is. And it's consuming all of my time. Because it is the story. It is. It is. I'm giving you a peek. But after around the corner, it gets... First of all, we've got a problem. We're going to get to the Belichick story. We're going to get to a lot of things. Later, look, at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, 1 o'clock Central Time, in 22 minutes, it's going to be the release of the Big Ten football schedule. The days. The order of the games. And then tonight, it's the SEC football schedule. And I'm going to cover that live as well. So we're doing 2 live shows tonight. The second live show, I'm not going to be able to get it off the ground until I can't do it in real time. Because I'm going to be on the road. But I'm going to get back here in the studio. We're going to have a second live show talking about the SEC football schedule. The dates. Let me say this, though. The dates that you see on these schedules, most of them are going to be accurate, but some of them are going to get moved. The order of the games are going to be accurate, right? Your third conference game is going to be such and such. That is going to stay. But some of these Saturday games might be moved to Friday, okay? So we're all on the same page. The football schedule release, Big Ten, is going to be basically accurate, but there might be a few changes. So we're going to get to that in 30 minutes. The problem is I got a stacked show before we get to that. The ... I mean, I don't know, guys. I don't... Boy. This is consuming all of PATC time. We have heard... There is... I got a feeling that some people have some information that is embargoed. Like they cannot release a bit of it when it comes to private equity and what is going to happen in 2025. But a lot of it is everybody is, I don't know what the hell is going to happen. Because everything is going to be related to another decision above them. It's like the dominoes. It's like realignment. You try to figure out the biggest dominoes. You try to figure out if that's going to happen. If it happens, then you can kind of see where it... Well, that's the same thing with private equity. We don't know if it's coming in at the conference level, at a school level, or something bigger than a conference level. We talked about yesterday or the day before how Florida State had to shut it down because there's uncertainty in the ACC. There's uncertainty because of the House versus NCAA settlement, but that's going to get resolved at some point. Like April, May, June, July, whatever. But it's the ACC confusion. It's two of the major brand football schools suing the conference. That is a roadblock. Big 12 don't have that same roadblock. Some G5 conferences, the AAC, we talked about the AAC. They don't have that type of roadblock. Again, we're at a very dangerous tipping point. AAC Commissioner Tim Pernetti on the inevitable entrance of outside investment in college sports. He says private equity is inevitable. And again, I put the tweet, the post, once House versus NCAA settlement comes to its conclusion, ... And I don't know what that ... is. I have been told so many different possibilities. We do know, and I'm going to push the envelope here because that's what we do here at Peek Around the Corner. You only live once. You only live once, and I'm going to tell you guys something. I do not get in trouble with my sources. I get in trouble with you all because at some point in the year, I'm going to give you some sort of bad news when it comes to your football team at some point. I do not get in trouble with my sources. I get in trouble with you all, and I get in trouble with some decision make. I get in trouble a lot, but not from my sources. There are people out there that are very pro. There are way more pro private equity than others. There are schools that are out there. And it's cross-pollination. It's not just all the schools in one conference are for it and all the other schools in the other conference are against it. There are some private schools. I'm going to push the envelope here. There are some private schools that are for it. And the question is, do they do it at a school level? Or, and it's been told to them, and they see the presentations, that it's more valuable to them if it's done at a larger scope. We've talked about that in the past. I'm going to keep bringing that up because that is the hesitation. Besides the House versus NCAA, which is going to come to its conclusion, that is the hesitation. At what level do we bring private equity in? The larger the scope, the more valuable to the universities. There are schools in the Big 12 that are for it. Oh, this is what we're being told. There are schools in the ACC that are for it. They want to press the PE button. They want to smash it. Some of them want to smash it. And the pressure is mounting because the bills are mounting. The pressure on the athletic department. There are believers out there. It's not just about desperation. There are believers. I'm not smart enough. You guys know I'm not the brightest bulb in the refrigerator. I just happen to know where every refrigerator is in every house or room that I go into because I'm the fat guy in Minnesota. But I can't tell you. All I can tell you is there are true believers of it. The NFL, they just approved. Today, there's news out there. I can't get to it all. But there's a 10%. There are private equities that I think it's the Buffalo Bills. I'm not sure if that's correct. It's out there. Go Google it right now. It happened. Private equities in the NBA. Private equities coming. It's a coming. The question is, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer either. But we don't know how it's coming. I wish I could tell you, man. I'm not telling you because I'm embargoed. I'm not telling you because I don't know. And it bothers me because that's the big story out there. That is the gigantic story. And then that is going to affect everything else. And it might even be affecting this Bill Belichick thing. That's why I'm talking about it. I don't know, but people are asking. People are talking about it behind the curtain. I'm telling you. Breaking news. According to Inside Carolina, and you can book it if they're saying it. This is 247. This is the CBS Sports 247, the family Inside Carolina. North Carolina is finalizing a deal to land Bill Belichick as the new football coach. The Tar Heels are on the verge of completing their search with a shocking move, hiring the man with more Super Bowl rings than any other head coach in history. Now, this was just released about 10 minutes before I was able to come on live. Remember, we were planning to come on live at about 1:30 Eastern time to cover the Big Ten football schedule release, which we're going to do. We had to come on live 15 minutes earlier because of this breaking news. This is breaking news. Chapel Hill, North Carolina. In a stunning development that has progressed from the implausible to the actuality. North Carolina is finalizing a contract to land Bill Belichick as its next football head coach inside Carolina learned from multiple sources on Wednesday. The NFL legend is regarded among the preeminent coaches in the history of the sport, if not at the top of the all-time greatest list. UNC Board of Trustees is working on setting up an emergency meeting to approve Belichick's contract. An emergency meeting to approve Belichick's contract. Now, we said yesterday that the Board of Trustees do need to approve it. That has to happen. They have that power. They have that power. There's a lot of powers that the Board of Trustees does not have, but they have this one, as we reported to you yesterday. According to the sources, pending approval from the UNC Board of Trustees, he will replace the fired Mack Brown. Only icons Don Shula and George Halas have piled up more coaching victories in the NFL than the 72-year-old Belichick, who has made more Super Bowl appearances, 9, and claimed more Super Bowl titles, 6, than any head coach in the pages of NFL history. But he has never coached. He has never coached on the college level in any capacity. In any capacity. And he's 8 months younger than Mr. Mack Brown. Across the last week, as Inside Carolina first reported, sources said that the UNC search committee's initial interview with Belichick on a Zoom video conference platform turned what some presumed to be merely a courtesy conversation into the full-on birth of his candidacy. His depth of preparation and detailed plans for winning big with the Tar Heels made a profound impact. According to sources, UNC followed up on that Zoom interview by meeting with Belichick for an extended period on last Thursday, in New York City. Cunningham and his new Chancellor Lee Roberts made that trip, per sources. North Carolina discussed contract structure, financial details with Belichick, according to sources, along with the potential length of his head coaching tenure and his idea of assembling a coaching staff. Woo! Cunningham was seated among the home crowd Saturday afternoon at the Smith Center, on hand for the Tar Heels' victory against visiting Georgia Tech in men's basketball. On Monday night, he was nearby Cary, North Carolina, to cheer on the North Carolina's women's soccer team, which defeated Wake Forest to capture the NCAA championship. By that juncture, sources said only Belichick remained in negotiations with the Tar Heels. Belichick was the only candidate that UNC mentioned to players and recruits on Monday as a potential or expected outcome of the coaching search. Inside Carolina, breaking news. Now, when we first heard the name here at PATC about Belichick, if you remember, we did a live show on it. And I came up here and I said, well, it's serious because we told it was serious. We were told this ain't, this isn't just bluster. It's serious. Got some pushback in the chat room, and in fact, internally, I pushed back on it. But we had to tell you, we said from the moment that this was first broken by Inside Carolina, we were told it was serious. And boy, it is happening. It is absolutely happening. Belichick must have gotten promises that North Carolina will increase spending on football. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And how they're going to get it, or We don't know. Again, this is the year of Bubba. This is the 2025. Let me get to some news. Then we're going to circle back to North Carolina. Let me get to some other news. We got so much to cover. And then we are going to cover the release of the Big Ten schedule. I will say this. I have been told one game. I know the date of one Minnesota Golden Gopher football game on the road, and I'm not happy with the date of that game. So I'm already unhappy. I'm going to give you a hint here. I'm going to give you a hint. I put out this post earlier today. Hopefully the Big Ten corporate office received my vanilla envelope this morning by special delivery with the note still attached. This is a gift of appreciation. Some value of the gift, same value of gift will be given to you if the 2025 Golden Gophers at Oregon and Ohio State games are scheduled, pushed into late October and early November. Well, since I posted that, I've learned that either my vanilla envelope did not get there in time, or it got there in time, but the bribe, the inducement wasn't big enough. So I already know one date of one game, and I'm not happy with the Big Ten office. I'm not happy with Tony Petitti. Again, they're screwing with my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers. But we'll get into that when the football schedule is released. We are going to get back to North Carolina. Fernando Mendoza, you heard me talk about it a lot in the off season, how I was expecting California to make the bowl game. I really like Fernando Mendoza in 2023, an emerging quarterback. Had a very good year in 2024. He is entering the NCAA transfer portal. I don't know if you guys caught that game when California defeated Stanford. After the game, Fernando Mendoza was on the football field and they were interviewing him and they got all emotional. He was basically crying during the interview, saying, "This is for our guys. We went 98 yards and my guys, we took it home. We won this game and we're going bowling. This is the greatest moment of my life." Fernando Mendoza created big memories at California, lifting that program up from the mat. And now he's going somewhere. And I don't know where he's going, but I think whoever gets Mr. Mendoza is going to be a very fortunate football program. Very fortunate football program. So we're going to keep an eye on this story. Where is Mendoza going to end up? We know where Darian Mensah is going to end up. Holy smokes. Pete Thamel. Transfer quarterback Darian Mensah, the top-rated player in ESPN's transfer portal rankings, has committed to Duke. He told ESPN on Wednesday, Mensah is a redshirt freshman who will have 3 years remaining. Holy smokes. Wow. Wow. I mean, no offense to Malik Murphy, but Duke got an upgrade here. Duke got an absolute upgrade here. Maybe Malik Murphy knew this was going to happen. This is why he put his name in the portal. I don't know. Malik Murphy's going to get a real good shot somewhere. He is improving. He's developing. But I like this cat, man. I like this cat. And Duke Blue Devils, Manny Diaz, this is a big, big, big get for Duke. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Here is another article that I want to get to here. This was yesterday. We had such a stacked show yesterday. I could not get to everything, but Dennis Dodd, college football playoff redesign could come soon, including a supercharged championship Saturday with play-ins. Here at Peek Around the Corner, we have discussed, because the other conferences have discussed this semifinal weekend idea, right? Semifinal weekend, where you don't have two teams in the championship game. You have four teams with a semifinal and then to a championship game. But conversations are circling around not just a conference championship game, but a play-in. Let me read the article here. Automatic qualifiers could hit the college football playoff as early as 2026. I'm not going to go through this whole article because we've got so much stuff to cover today. But, we've talked about how the SEC and the Big Ten are looking to have possibly more automatic qualifiers for those conferences. And then the Big 12 and the ACC would as well. One format being discussed is the so-called play-in games during the regular season that would decide at least some of those automatic qualifiers in the field. The championship Saturday could be enhanced by not only the number 1 and number 2 seeds meeting for the league title, but teams below those two teams playing for an automatic berth. Now we did have a caller, and I forgot who it was. Somebody in the PATC family. I don't know if it was Tristan or Rick or somebody brought up this possibility. And when I heard it, I said, woo, that sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good, because you don't have to cut off one of the conference games. You can keep it at 9 conference games and then have a championship Saturday. Think of this. Think of the top 6 teams at least being involved in a massive championship Saturday 3-game play-in. Using this season's Big Ten and SEC standings, this is how it worked. So, let's imagine that the Big Ten in 2026 is going to get 3 automatic qualifiers. The SEC, 3 automatic qualifiers. The ACC, 2 automatic qualifiers. The Big 12, 2 automatic qualifiers. Okay? Or maybe it's 3, 3, 3, 3, and the G5 gets 1. And then there's 1 at-large bid, or if they go to 16. But whatever. For this example, we're going to use the Big Ten and the SEC. They could have a playoff championship Saturday, still maintain their 9 conference games, 3 out-of-conference games, and then instead of just having the Big Ten championship game of Oregon, Penn State, they've also would have had Iowa versus Indiana, Illinois versus Ohio State. The winner of Oregon and Penn State would have become the Big Ten champion. The loser of the Big Ten championship game would also get an automatic qualifying spot. And if the Big Ten would get their 4 automatic qualifiers, then the winner of Iowa versus Indiana would get a spot, and the winner of Illinois and the Buckeyes get a spot. But if it's 3 automatic qualifiers, it would be Oregon and Penn State. The winner and the loser gets a spot. And then it would be number 3 Indiana versus number 4 Ohio State. The winner gets a spot. And they talk about the SEC as well. The 3 winners, and they give an example of the SEC. The 3 winners would advance to the college football playoff. It is not known if or how a 4th automatic qualifier would be added. The 4th team could come from additional play-in game or merely included the championship game loser. And I think that would be it. If you get 4 automatic qualifiers, it's going to come from the championship game loser. If you're going to get 3 automatic qualifiers, you're going to have 2 play-in games. The championship game where the loser goes in, and then the other game which is going to decide the 3rd automatic qualifiers. I've heard rumors of it. College Football Playoff Executive Director Rich Clark told CBS Sports Tuesday. Ultimately, that's a Big Ten and SEC decision on how they play within their conference and commissioner decision on how we look at it in that regard to the playoffs. Early this year, the Big Ten proposed a 14 playoff with 3 automatic qualifiers each for the SEC and the Big Ten. There would be 2 each for the ACC and the Big 12. The pushback from the other FBS conferences was significant. If this were to happen, the 12-team bracket would almost certainly have to expand to accommodate such a structure. The most commonly mentioned number is 14 teams beginning in 2026. I believe I have given a link in the description box below the video. You can read the whole article. I did not go through the whole article. Because you want to determine a Big Ten champion. You want to determine an SEC champion. You want to determine a Big 12 champion. Why would you let your number 6 team get an automatic bid if your number 2 and 3 do not? You would have your 3 team play the 6 team. And the winner of that would get an automatic bid. And remember, you still have at-large bids. You still have at-large bids. And again, why are you doing this? 1, if you can get more money from your media partners to have that showcase of 3 or 2 games on championship Saturdays, you have more conference games down the stretch, meaning something to your media partners, because the 6th seed, the 5th seed can still get in a championship Saturday and get an automatic qualifier spot. Imagine the Big 12 having 3 automatic qualifiers. Because who knows, if this goes to 16, imagine the Big 12 having 3 automatic qualifiers. You would have a championship game. You would have the 3rd and 4th place team playing a play-in game, and the winner of that gets an automatic spot in the playoffs, and the loser still might get the automatic at large. I'm just saying, guys, this is being talked about. All this stuff is being talked about. Ryan Willie expanded 32. Top 7 from the Big Ten, SEC, ACC, and the Big 12. 1 from the AAC, MAC. Mountain West Conference, Conference USA. Thank you for the super chat, Ryan Willie. Probably not happening anytime soon, but I would not dismiss anything. I would have never have thought that the NCAA basketball tournament would ever get to 76 teams. 76. I think it's going from 72 to 76. So 10 years from now, anything is possible. Thank you, Ryan Willie. Thank you for your super chat. I do appreciate your generosity, continued generosity. Thank you so very, very much. Go Black, let the G5 have their own playoffs. Well, maybe that will happen 5 or 6 years from now. It can't happen now, though. It can't. It can't. Unless you want your LSU Tigers and the SEC to be sued, along with everybody else, successfully sued, because everybody signed their name on the dotted line, the G5 will have their playoff access for the next at least 5 years. Thomas Moss, this is all preliminary to the Super League. Yeah, well, again, Super League, right? What the Super League, hold on a second here. We got to get to, again, we are going to be covering the college football, Big Ten football schedule released. Give me a moment. It's happening right now, I believe. And later tonight, we're going to come on live and we're going to cover the SEC football schedule release of 2025. Keep your head on a swivel. I'm going to be monitoring. Here we go. Week 9, Minnesota, Iowa. Week 10, USC, Nebraska. Ohio State, Michigan, week 14. I just saw a little bit of it. They gave us a tease. Iowa, Minnesota, week 9. Iowa, Minnesota, week 9. We do know that. We're also getting we're getting a lot of news, guys. We're getting a lot of news. I apologize. Okay, we're going to cover this football thing. Warner Brothers Discovery has secured a large-scale distribution agreement with Comcast, the second largest U.S. cable company. The TNT Sports parent company continues to remake itself dramatic fashion post-NBA rights. This is great news for Warner Brothers Discovery. Great news for TNT. And possibly great news for college football in the future. As TNT is trying to get in the college football space. More breaking news. Ohio State offensive coordinator and receiver coach Brian Hartline has interviewed for the West Virginia opening for the new head coach. Matt Campbell has agreed to a new 8-year contract at Iowa State. Okay, we're covering the release of the Big Ten football schedule. Then we're going to open up your phone lines because there's about 35 different breaking news here. 35 different breaking news. 35 of them, not 34, not 33, about 35 items, breaking news all over the place. Here we go. Come on now, let's go. We know the Gophers are playing the evil Hawkeyes in week 9. They've already teased that. Here we go. There's some other stuff here. Oregon Ducks, Minnesota, week 12. Oregon, Northwestern, Penn State, Indiana, Rutgers, Wisconsin, Iowa, at home Minnesota, at home USC, Washington. Oregon finishes up Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, USC, Washington. Oregon Ducks, the 2025 football schedule. Northwestern, Penn State, Indiana, Rutgers, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, USC, Washington. This is conference schedules are being released right now. The dates, they're not putting down the dates, but they're putting down the week. Oregon Ducks. They're doing it one team at a time here. One team. Good. I like it. Any Ducks in the house? Oregon, Minnesota. It ain't going to happen in September. It's not even going to happen in October, baby. It's going to happen early November. After we get our redshirt freshman quarterback seeing some live bullets. Okay. Craig, you're saying we have a bye week, week 12. I am so happy it's not early in the season. So happy. Okay. That's the sweet schedule for the Ducks. Listen. Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota. Now, Wisconsin, and then you get a bye. Iowa, Minnesota. The Buckeyes. First game against Washington, week 5. Then Minnesota, and that's what the bad news that I had. October 4th. I know that day. I was told before we came on live, Minnesota's going to be going to Ohio State on October 4th. Washington, Minnesota, Illinois, Wisconsin. Then a bye, Penn State, Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, and Michigan. So the Buckeyes will start their Big Ten conference schedule against Washington. And here is the breaking news we talked about a little bit ago. Matt Campbell, contract extension through 2032. He is here to stay. Matt Campbell, Ames, Iowa. Congratulations to the Cyclones. Big news for Iowa State. Big news. To Mazda, Turner Truck Stop Central, Warner Brothers Discovery making a massive deal with Comcast. I think they're going to be just fine. Okay, here we go. All right. We've heard enough of the Buckeyes. Washington, Minnesota, Illinois, Wisconsin, Penn State, Purdue, UCLA. Okay, Michigan. They start the conference schedule at Nebraska, at home against Wisconsin, at USC, at home against Washington, woo! At Michigan State, at home Purdue, at Northwestern, at Maryland. The middle of the schedule looks pretty good for Michigan. And then they finish it off at home against the Buckeyes. So the first part of that schedule, Nebraska, Wisconsin, USC, Washington, Michigan State, Purdue, Northwestern, Maryland, the Buckeyes. My goodness. If Minnesota and Oregon played a trophy game, what would it be called? Something about the water. Something in regards to water, right? Something in regards to water. Alan Tran is in the house. SMU deserves the playoffs. Hats off to Indiana as well. Big Ten released. Illini Ted, are they doing this in order of teams they like? I don't get it either. So it might be a while for your... I know they started with Oregon. Okay, they won the conference. They're not going in alphabetical order. And then they went to Ohio State. And then they went to Michigan. So Minnesota, they're going to have Minnesota an hour and a half from now. Absolutely ridiculous. Well, again, the way they're doing this, boy, this is not the way I would have done it. But also, okay, here's Michigan State. At USC, at Nebraska. So the first two conference games are on the road for the Spartans. At home, UCLA. At Indiana. At home against Michigan. Woo-hoo! At Minnesota. At home, Penn State. At Iowa. At home, Maryland. Michigan State has a little bit of a challenging, very challenging schedule. The Geritol Bowl, UNC versus Iowa. Ed Cook, thanks for coming on in. Movie Time Blues. Call it the Duck Duck Goose Trophy. Minnesota versus Oregon trophy game. Lakes and Ocean Trophy. Okay. That has some spark to it. By the way, if you missed our episode 415, go check it out. We released it today. The Mountain West Conference, Northern Illinois, go check it out. Northern Illinois, the decision for Northern Illinois to join the Mountain West Conference as a football-only member is imminent. We're going to find a decision very, very soon. Yes or no? Northern Illinois is making their final decision. Do they join the Mountain West Conference as a football-only member? And if they do, that is it. That's the end of the Mountain West Conference expansion for now. There would be their 9th football program in the conference. Northern Illinois would have to figure out where they're going to put their other sports teams if they do join the Mountain West Conference as a football program. Stephen Bitvitt, Mr. Ohio Bobcat. I wouldn't be surprised either way about Northern Illinois joining the Mountain West Conference. Stormy Cyclone, Campbell, and TJ Oz are lifers, the names, roots, success, low rate of pressure, and faithful. Okay, they're going to go to commercial. It sounds like they're going to do Penn State, Illinois, Indiana next. I have no idea what order they're doing all this in. But once you get back to... okay, we're going to open up the phone lines here. But when they do the schedule, I'm going to have to interrupt the phone callers. Phone number 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Again, breaking news today from inside Carolina. Chapel Hill, North Carolina, in a stunning development that has progressed from the implausible to an actuality. North Carolina is finalizing a contract to land Bill Belichick as its next football coach. Inside Carolina learned from multiple sources today, Wednesday. The NFL legend is regarded among the preeminent coaches in the history of the sport. The UNC Board of Trustees is working on setting up an emergency meeting to approve Belichick's contract, according to sources first reported by ABC 11. Pending the approval of the UNC Board of Trustees, he replaces the fired Mac Brown. So it's happening, ladies and gentlemen. Bill Belichick is going to be the new head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. Let me know what you think about that. Let me know what you think about that. Unbelievable. Incredible news. I don't know how this, we'll see the impact of what happens in the portal right away. We'll see the impact and what type of revenue North Carolina football is going to have right away. We're going to have at least some breadcrumbs on where this is all leading in Chapel Hill. Phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. Give us a call if you want to talk college football. Big Ten fan, I brought up this playoff scenario months ago and it was quickly brushed off. Glad it's seeing the light of day. Championship Saturday. It could happen. It could happen. Another revenue stream for the conferences. If the conferences get full power to organize, to set up how they determine their own champion, and then how to determine their own automatic qualifiers, this could happen. You can go one or two ways. You can say, okay, the Big Ten gets 3 automatic qualifiers. Okay, 1, 2, 3. The 3 teams that are in at the top of the stand. Penn State, hold on. Penn State starts the season at home against Oregon. That was leaked yesterday, by the way. At UCLA, Northwestern, at Iowa week 8, a bye week, and then at Ohio State week 10. Then at home against Indiana, at Michigan State, at home against Nebraska, at Rutgers. So Oregon, UCLA, Northwestern, Iowa, Ohio State, Indiana, Michigan State, Nebraska, Rutgers. That is Penn State's 2025 conference schedule. So you can have it set up either way. You could have, the top 3 in the conference standings, automatic qualifiers. Or you can do it the play-in way, where you got a championship game and then another game to decide that third automatic qualifier spot. If you have 4 automatic qualifiers coming out of your conference, you could have 3 play-in games. Battle for Helen for Troy to kick off the Big Ten. Indiana, Illinois, week 4. First Big Ten game for Indiana. At home against Illinois, at Iowa, at Oregon, Michigan State, UCLA, Maryland, Penn State, Wisconsin, Purdue. So Indiana will play Oregon, Penn State, Wisconsin, UCLA, Indiana Hoosiers. I don't think there is a trend away from conference championship games. I don't believe it. You have to have some way you have to determine the champion of your conference. They do have a tougher schedule for 2025. Yeah. Indiana definitely has a tougher schedule for 2025. Purdue, the Boilermakers, with new head coach. At home against USC, week 3. At home against Illinois, week 6. At Minnesota, week 7. At Northwestern, week 8. At home against Rutgers, week 9. At Michigan, week 10. at home against the Buckeyes, week 11, at Washington, and at home against Indiana. So USC, Illinois, Minnesota, Northwestern, Rutgers, Michigan, and Ohio State, Washington, Indiana. The last 4 games on Purdue's schedule for 2025. The Boilermakers, who did not win a conference game this year. New head coach coming in next year. The last 4 games is Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, and Indiana. So Purdue, try to get your wins early in the year. Try to get your wins early in the year. Holy smokes. The Purdue Boilermakers. Barry Oldham, new head coach. The Illinois Fighting Illini. 9-3 this year. Start the season next year at Indiana week 4. In Illinois at home against USC. At Purdue. At home against Ohio State. On the road to Washington. At home Rutgers. At home Maryland. At Wisconsin. At home Northwestern. Indiana, USC, Purdue, Ohio State, Washington, Rutgers, Maryland, Wisconsin, Northwestern. Illini Ted is in the house. I wonder what he's thinking. They start this season Indiana, at Indiana, and then at home USC. Northwestern, they start out at home against Oregon, at home against UCLA. So they get 2 West Coast schools coming on in to Rosemont, Illinois. Penn State, at home against Purdue, at Nebraska, at USC, Michigan, at home against Minnesota in Wrigley Field. And at Illinois. Northwestern is going to be playing in Wrigley Field, Michigan, and Minnesota, week 12 and 13. Oh boy. When it's really cold out there, Minnesota's going to have to play at Wrigley Field. Brian Hartline to West Virginia. Now, replica. I went and I looked at, as I'm doing all this other stuff, West Virginia 247 knew about this interview, but they think it happened a while ago. So this isn't anything recent. All interviews have been done. They've all been done. I don't think it's going to Brian Hartline. I don't think it's happening. I could be wrong, and I'll take the big L if it happens. I think it would be a very good get. A very good get. I think it would be a great, it would be so interesting for West Virginia. By the way, when it comes to the drones, we've got commercial here, the Big Ten Network. The FBI is in charge of investigation of the drones over New Jersey. The head of the FBI, Christopher Wray, is resigning. Breaking news, the Pentagon says there's no evidence drones reportedly seen over New Jersey are coming from a foreign entity. There's no so-called mothership launching drones towards the United States, spokeswoman says. So, these drones, there's no evidence that it's coming from a foreign entity. Not Russia, China. Okay? All right, I feel better. Not really. Not really. Okay, we're waiting for more information here. Again, we're just covering the release of the Big Ten schedule in real time. In real time. A lot of commercials. You know what? And maybe, I'm just throwing that, maybe the government is doing some sort of surveillance of something kind of dangerous. Like, maybe the government got word that there is, that somebody's planting some sort of, I don't know, some terrorist act might happen. And these drones that the United States government is flying all over the place is trying to pick up some signature of something really bad. I don't even want to say the words, some chemical or biological or nuclear suitcase, whatever it is. I'm just throwing that option out there. Something's going on. Have they released USC? Did they? I don't think they did. I don't think they did. USC, they're just releasing it now. Purdue, at home, Michigan State, at Illinois, at home against Michigan, at Nebraska, at home against Northwestern, at home against Iowa, at Oregon, at home against UCLA. Purdue, Michigan State, Illinois, Michigan, and then a bye and another non-conference game, Nebraska, Northwestern, Iowa, Oregon, UCLA. So the Trojans, Wolverines, Trojans, Hawkeyes, Trojans, Cornhuskers, Trojans, Ducks, Trojans, Bruins, Trojans, Boilermakers, the Trojans, and the Spartans. Good afternoon, all. Not confirmed, but Husky fans 100% expect Steve to follow Bill to North Carolina. Excuse me for my ignorance, Sergeant Pickles, but who is Steve? Who are we? Who is Steve? I don't know who Steve is. Oh, his son. Yeah. Defensive coordinator. I'm sorry. Yeah, got it. Nope, I know who Steve is. Got it. Okay. Yes. Yeah. He'll be, I'm sure he will. Thank you, Sergeant Pickles, for reminding that. UCLA Bruins at Northwestern, week 5. At home, Penn State. At Michigan State. At home against Maryland. At Indiana. At home against Nebraska. At Ohio State. At home against Washington. At USC. UCLA starts the Big Ten schedule 2025 on the road to Northwestern, and then at home against Penn State. Michigan State, Maryland, Indiana, Nebraska, Ohio State, Washington, and USC. That is the UCLA schedule. Immaculate is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Immaculate is in the house. Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. I do see the Minnesota schedule. They did release Minnesota. My beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers. It's fine. It's okay. It's okay. One of these games, I'd rather have them move it. I'll put it up on the screen here. The Gophers, they start the Big Ten. Here's Washington. Washington at home against Ohio State. Like Huskies. Hold on here. At home, Ohio State. On the road in Maryland. At home against Rutgers. At Michigan. At home against Illinois. At Wisconsin. At home against Purdue. At UCLA. At home against Oregon. So Washington starts the Big Ten schedule against the Buckeyes. At home. Holy smokes. And then it's a Maryland, Rutgers, sandwich, Michigan. Buckeyes in Michigan. 2 of the first 4 games for Washington. And then Illinois, Wisconsin, Purdue, UCLA, and Oregon. So you've got Michigan, Oregon, and Ohio State all on your schedule for 2025. And then back to the Minnesota. Start at home against Rutgers. And then I did not want an October 4th game against at Ohio State. I wanted that later in the season. But everything else is fine. We play Purdue after the Buckeyes. That's a good recovery game. And then Nebraska at home. And we have defeated Nebraska 5 straight years. And then at Iowa, which is not good. Michigan State, which we have pounded the last couple times, at Oregon, and then Northwestern and Wisconsin. That is my beloved Gophers. Rutgers starts the conference season. Iowa home, at Minnesota, home against Washington, on the road against Washington, home Oregon, at Purdue, at Illinois, at home against Maryland, at Ohio State, at home against Penn State. Rutgers starts the Big Ten season at home against the evil Hawkeyes. Again, if you have just joined us, hold on everybody, I got to clean something up. If you've just joined us, we've been covering an array of breaking news. Bill Belichick, according to Inside Carolina, the deal is being finalized. It's being finalized. It's going to get done, ladies and gentlemen. Bill Belichick is going to be the new head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. And all of what happens after that, are we going to see a sudden impact of Bill Belichick in regards to the transfer portal, in regards to money that North Carolina is going to be investing in their football program? What kind of coaching staff is he going to have? The money that they're going to have for the coaching salary pool. Where's North Carolina going to get this money? Season tickets. The impact of the ACC. On and on and on and on. That story is going to be going on through the 2025 season. Maryland at Wisconsin. At home against Washington. At home against Nebraska. At UCLA. At home against Indiana. At Rutgers. At Illinois. At home against Michigan. On the road in Michigan State. Maryland Terrapins 2025 schedule. Wisconsin, Washington, Nebraska, UCLA, Indiana, Rutgers, Illinois, Michigan, and Michigan State. Ryan Willie, this evil Badger isn't happy. Brutal schedule. Now, we know, yes, it's a brutal schedule. It's a brutal schedule. But I haven't seen the release yet of the official release of what order Wisconsin plays the Big Ten schedule. Now, the Big Ten Network is releasing it. I'm sure the Wisconsin fans have seen it. Like seeing Minnesota versus Nebraska. So do I. So do I, Jay Chapman. So do I. I'm not sure North Carolina can turn it around in one transfer window. Even with Bill there, you're probably right. Probably right, Sergeant Pickles. Paige and Michael Jordan on line one. Paige and Michael Jordan on line one. Immaculate, yeah, we need a mobile quarterback for this offense. All Big Ten schedules are brutal, but poorly placed bye weeks, cross-country trips are killers. That's what happened to the Gophers. The Gophers had won a bunch of games in a row. They haven't had a bye in a long time. And when the Gophers played Rutgers, and I'm not trying to make this as an excuse, but I talked about it the week before. Rutgers had an off week before they played Minnesota. Minnesota had just played 5 games on the road, went to New Jersey, and they were lifeless. So where the byes are is important. You want them at the right spots. Minnesota versus Buffalo. Buffalo Bulls were pretty good in the MAC this year. PJ Fleck's first game as a Golden Gopher coach, 8 years ago, when next year happened, 8 years ago, was against Buffalo. Minnesota versus Buffalo. PJ Fleck's first year. Gophers did not have a quarterback. I don't want to be mean, but the Gophers literally did not have a quarterback. Gophers 17, Buffalo 7. It was a terrible game to watch. Ryan Willie, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for your generosity so very much. Still haven't seen the official Wisconsin Badgers schedule yet. Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, 3-game stretch. Ugh. Got to get back to work. Be well, all. Gold Dog, Sergeant Pickles. Thank you for your super chat, my friend. Thank you so very much. Catch Sergeant Pickles, Gold Becky, Washington Huskies, and the man, the myth, the legend, Moen on Monday nights. Big Ten College Football Mafia Show. Go check it out Monday night. Sergeant Pickles. Go Becky, Huskies, and Moen. Haven't seen Iowa's schedule yet. Was it released? I have not seen it. I have not seen it. When they release it on the Big Ten Network, I will go through it. And it looks like they're going to do Iowa next because that was the next. Iowa, Wisconsin, Nebraska, and the Gophers. It looks like those are the next 4. Iowa, here we go. Iowa's at Rutgers, at home against Indiana, at Wisconsin, at home against Penn State, at home against Minnesota, and then at home against Oregon. There is a bye week between Minnesota and Oregon. Then USC, Michigan State, Nebraska. So Iowa is playing Rutgers, but then they're playing Indiana, a bye, an early bye, Wisconsin, Penn State, Minnesota. I like that the Iowa Hawkeyes are playing Wisconsin and Penn State before they play the Gophers. But then you got to bye going into Oregon. You're going to need that bye against Oregon. That is brutal. That is brutal. That's not Indiana, Wisconsin. Then you got Penn State. And you don't have a bye going into Minnesota. Yeah, we don't have a bye going into Iowa. We've got Buckeyes, Purdue, Nebraska, Iowa. Yeah, we play, oh boy. We've got a bye game going in against Oregon as well. Oregon Ducks. Watch out, Oregon. The Hawkeyes and the Gophers both have a bye week before we play the Mighty Ducks. Oregon, I think you're in trouble. Minnesota Golden Gophers, we've already been through it. Rutgers, Ohio State, Purdue, Nebraska, Iowa, Michigan State, Oregon, Northwestern, and Wisconsin. I'm trying to see something here. I
feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please don't give me a sign.
I can't find a loss anywhere on that schedule.
Like I'm losing my mind.
I cannot find a loss anywhere. I'm looking.
Give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and
I do not see a loss anywhere on that schedule. Not a one, not a one. They're all brutal, Antoine Coates. Preseason national champs, the Minnesota Golden Gophers, for the 57th year in a row. The Gophers have won the make-believe preseason national championship. I did not see Gus's press conference. It's official. ESPN announced Bill Belichick. Wow. Wisconsin, Maryland, Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State. I'm sorry. Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota. My God. What the hell? What is that? Did you see that schedule? Wisconsin. These are the conference games. Maryland, okay, all right. Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, Indiana, Illinois. They don't play Northwestern. They don't play Purdue. They don't play Rutgers. They play all the top teams. Wisconsin Badgers, 2025 football season. May the evil Badgers rest in peace. Oh my God! Nebraska, Michigan, Michigan State, Maryland, Minnesota, Northwestern, USC, UCLA, Penn State, and Iowa. USC, UCLA, Penn State, and Iowa finishes out the Nebraska's Big Ten schedule, and it starts with Michigan and Michigan State. What is this news about Brian Hartline? Again, what we've understood in Immaculate is that interview happened a while ago. It got leaked out right now, but I don't think that's going to change the results of any of this. That is what we believe. If Brian Hartline is the new head coach, I would take a massive L. I still believe it's Rich Rod. I believe it is. We're going to find out, though. We're going to find out. Fickle funeral arrangements can be sent to, I don't know. That is a brutal. Yeah, the Big Ten absolutely screwed the Wisconsin Badgers. The Big Ten absolutely screwed. And then you got unlucky. Some of it is like, okay. But now you're throwing Indiana, and Indiana probably take a few steps back. I mean, they got to get a new quarterback, but they're going to have players. Some of those players are, they're going to be more competitive than they historically are, and that is an unbelievable, brutal schedule. That is, Wisconsin's going to have to play fantastic football to get to a bowl game. Phone lines are open. Give us a call, 763-260-1333 if you want to give us a call, talk about anything in college football. Now, Adam Scheffler is reporting that UNC is on board, but they're waiting on Bill. They're still waiting on Bill Belichick. My goodness.
Call from
Rick.
Rick, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir. What do you got to say?
Well, here's what I'm thinking. If Uncle Bill is heading to Chapel Hill, that looks imminent. I think that guarantees, that right there, that act alone guarantees private equity. Do you agree?
I don't want to say I agree. I do think it's another log on the fire. The reason why I don't want to say absolutely is because we don't know how North Carolina is going to be able to get private equity. Because they're in the ACC. And the uncertainty of it all, it's very difficult. They are in a quagmire. That's why people are talking about the dissolution theory, and that's a crazy idea, radical idea. But so again, it's another log on the fire. That's how I would phrase it. But we know that Bubba Cunningham is pro-private equity, and they've had to promise Bill Belichick resources. So if you want to go that far, then go. All the logic says yes. But I can't say it here at Peek Around the Corner because, boy, I'm hearing stuff. I'm hearing all different kind of stuff on private equity. Like my head is spinning. And boy, it is the story for 2025. We know Cunningham is pro private equity, and Bill Belichick is another log on the fire. I cannot quite get to what you're getting to, because I got to be careful with my words as well, because people kind of take them but I think you are. I think you're on. I think you're on to something, not on something.
Okay, but then I understand, and I'll go ahead and go there and throw the gauntlet down. But we did agree when we last spoke that UNC could, if they wanted to, do private equity alone by themselves, no one else.
Wait, who said that?
You and I, when we spoke, we said that they could do private equity on their own, not as a conference, but there would be a force multiplier if they went as a conference, but that they could still do it alone.
I think they can still do it alone. I think so.
Okay.
But again,
that's a gray area. Okay.
But there's a hesitant. Even if they could do it alone, I think there's a hesitancy to do it alone because the thought out there, the overwhelming chatter, let me put it that way, is that if you get private equity in a larger scope, if you can get in as a conference level, it would be more valuable to each and every institution. So have it come in as an institution level is really, and then because look, there's so much to this. If a private equity comes in, like if a private equity comes in as a school level, we're told that they're going to demand more. I don't really have a good phrase for it. They're going to demand more collateral. If you come in as a conference level, you're going to be asking for a commitment of so many years, like a grant of rights type of deal. You're going to get more. You kind of understand what I'm saying, right? So
I can also see where if they come in as an individual, let's just use a hypothetical example of UNC as the example, and whomever the private equity firm is comes in, but wants 51%. But if they came in as a conference, private equity might only want 10% of UNC, and 10% of Florida State, and 10% of Clemson, et cetera. See where I'm going?
Yep.
So if hypothetically, always hypothetical, UNC, I think Uncle Bill is only doing this when private equity is involved because he wants to get in on it. He doesn't want to be a college football coach. He wants his son to. But he wants in on this developing enterprise. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. Because even if they do it alone, the Tar Heels do it alone, they're breaking the glass ceiling. That's it. They've opened the door to private equity.
Okay, so you have. Okay, so I'm going to talk about something, okay, guys? Because you have opened the door to something, okay? and because you've opened the door to it, I can't act stupid. You're connecting the dots, so I'm just going to go ahead and lay it out there. We have heard, okay, guys, I'm not
Blame it on Rick.
What was that?
Blame it on Rick.
Yeah, I'm going to blame it on Rick. Guys, I've heard so many different stuff. Here's the deal. If Bill Belichick becomes the new head football coach of North Carolina, the value of North Carolina shoots up. It don't matter what they do in year one. It just does. It shoots up. And then, so that they become more valuable. They become more valuable to a private equity. So getting Bill Belichick on board is probably going to be worth if they go into the private equity world, in which Bubba Cunningham wants to do. And then is Bill Belichick going to be part owner of North Carolina, private equity? You guys understand what I'm saying? This is why the Bill Belichick thing was considered serious right off the bat. Because now you're delving into other people wanting to be involved in these private equity firms. And Bill Belichick, of course, right away he would up the value for North Carolina, and he would up the value for the private equity if they would come in to this space as a team level. And by the way, we are hearing all sorts of stuff about the Big 12 and Deion Sanders. So, yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. I wish I could have a normal conversation with Rick. Rick is having a normal conversation with him. You know, he's doing a fine job, but I can't. There are so many stories out there, and they're all kind of serious. Nobody knows where this is going. But whatever, this 2025 is about the invasion of private equity and how it comes in, where it comes in. That's the story, but dang it, I can't tell you how it's going to happen. Go ahead, Rick.
Well, thanks for taking me along for the ride, and love the show.
I appreciate it.
Later. Yeah, later.
Thank you so much. Great call. I don't have I just don't have any answers. Well, who would invest in North Carolina football? Well, it's not just North Carolina football. It's investing in the athletic department. It's investing in the basketball program. It's not just football. It's the massive brand of basketball. There's money on the outside that wants to get in. Absolutely.
From
Tristan 5.
Tristan, can you hold on for a second?
Yes.
Look, guys, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if I can I don't know how much louder I can talk about this. Just today, Dennis Dodd posted AAC Commissioner Tim Pernetti, and we are at a very dangerous tipping point. AAC Commissioner Tim Pernetti on the inevitable entrance of outside investment in college sports. He says private equity is inevitable. It's coming. Now I'm trying to figure out how it's going to come in. It's a coming. It is absolutely coming. So if you don't think there's private equity interested in North Carolina, boy, yes they are. If they're invested in programs that you don't think they would be. But what they really want, what private equity really wants, if they're going to take a bite at the apple, they want the whole damn apple. That's why they're talking Super League. And if they can't bite the whole apple, they want to take a bite of half the apple, which is a conference or an umbrella of conferences. And if they can't get that, then they're going to go to the North Carolina, the institution level. And the easiest bite at the apples are some private institutions that are very interested. We are at a tipping point. It's why I've been talking about it for 2 months. This is college football peek around the corner. These other, most college football YouTube channels, we cover everything, guys. We've been doing the portal, we're doing the playoffs, we predict our game, blah, 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 blah. But we cover everything. This is the story of 2025. And the other college football YouTube channels are going to catch up. This is going to be big news. And how it happens, how it unfolds, boy, I wish I could tell you, but I can't because I don't know. I'm being honest. But any nuggets of information that I get, I'm going to pass it on to you guys. Go ahead, Tristan. Thanks for your patience. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Greg. Hey, listen, so earlier in the show, you were talking about a proposal for playing games to be like play-in games for the playoff at the conference level. And that was an idea that I had called in about before. But I think what they're proposing, or in the example that you provided, I think someone was just putting that as an idea. I think that idea is actually better than the one that I had put forward. I was talking about if you're going to have 4 AQs, then you would have 4 games, and then like 1 plays 8 and 2 plays 7, etc.
Yeah.
All the way down the line. That was what my idea was. And I did mention also, Greg, that they would need to do this during the regular season, right? Because it's just too many postseason games to try and do it after the regular season. But I think based on what you showed, I don't know if you could put that back up there. I think their idea is better, though. This is a better way of doing it, in my opinion.
Yeah. I got it here. Let me post it again. We've covered so much on this program today. For those who have just joining us, you're probably going to have to go back to the start of the show to really capture everything we've done. But yeah, right here, I got it up on the screen. So Oregon and Penn State, they would both obviously be automatic qualifiers. This would be the Big Ten championship. But
right.
if you had 2 more qualifiers, the winner of Iowa, Indiana, the winner of Illinois, Ohio State, and that would take care of the imbalanced schedule. All the complaining about that and everything.
Yeah,
I think you're onto something, sir.
Yeah, the virtue I see with this proposal, and I had not thought about this as in depth as this person did. With 1 playing 2, you still get to maintain a true conference champion.
Yep.
Like 1 playing 8 or something like that. That's kind of like a flimsy conference championship. But this is a real conference championship game. And then, Greg, the other thing is, if you were doing like a 1-8, 2-7 kind of thing, you'd have 4 games. And, logically, you'd say to yourself, well, yeah, 4 games, the more games you have, the more ratings you're going to get or whatever. But in reality, based on what we know is happening now on Saturdays, we basically have 3 windows. Mm-hmm. And so the beauty of this is that you get 3 games instead of 4, but those 3 games fit neatly into the 3 windows that we have, and it makes all of the matchups more compelling because you have a true championship game as the headliner game, and then the other 2 games are de facto playoff games. Right, so winner gets in, losers out. Mm-hmm. And so I think that idea, the one that you put forward, is the one that probably will get adopted because to me it looks like the superior idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, these conferences, they're going to continue to separate themselves financially. This thing here with these 3 games or whatever playing into the playoff, man, that's conference money. They don't have to share that with anyone. And, Greg, those games are going to get killer ratings. Mm-hmm. They're going to get absolutely stellar ratings. So, I just wanted to call in and, I guess, kind of take a victory lap or whatever.
Yep. I did mention you early in the show. You bringing this
up.
I
appreciate it. Yeah. Greg, I'll go so far as to say that I think they were listening to your show, and that's where they got the idea.
I don't think so. They've been talking about this stuff for, Jim Harbaugh. In fact, Mark Hollis, the old well, he wasn't old at the time, but I don't know. He was like the Michigan State athletic director.
Uh-huh.
And he was the right-hand man of Jim Delaney back about, boy, I want to say 12 years ago. He brought all this stuff up. They were talking about this when the conference was 12 members when they just brought in Nebraska. So, yeah,
right,
so this has been kicked around for a lot. Jim Harbaugh kicked this around a lot with the coaches, and
yeah.
So how it
all?
Well,
Greg, I was just kidding about that.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, you keep up the good work, and I'll talk to you later.
You got it. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Great call. Immaculate. There is an issue with the current NCAA rules, but I think everyone is anticipating a deregulation of a massive deregulation of conferences being able to conduct how they do their championships and all that. How do they make their qualifiers? But right now, legally, there is a hurdle that has to be overcome. Yeah, they should.
Call from
Larry the GM.
Larry the GM, Mr. Longhorn, is on the line. He's getting ready for the playoffs. Texas versus Clemson. Ears versus Klubnik. Wisner versus Maffa. Holy smokes. What are you thinking, sir?
Well, I'm looking forward to that, Greg. I'm pretty, I've been saying Texas can lose to the same team 3 times, but that may be the only team they lose to this year. So
yeah,
I'm pretty confident against anybody else other than Georgia. I just think they're a bad match. Greg, can we play a little bit of what's the best deal for the private equity people?
Can we play it? Sure. I probably will have the wrong. Go ahead. Let's play it.
I don't want to take you where you can't comment, but I want to talk hypotheticals with you.
Okay.
I think you've been making a very good case that the broader the.
Can you hold on a second? I got to take a phone call. Everybody,
okay.
Hold on. I got to take a phone call. Hold on. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead, sir. Larry the GM, I apologize. Go ahead.
No, don't apologize, Greg. You're doing your job, and you're doing what makes you unique and special in this space. So, if you have any breaking news from us from the phone call, we'll be glad to hear it. But you've been.
Let's just say I'm very busy. I'm extremely busy, and I got nothing to share right now. But go ahead, sir.
Okay. So let's play private equity. What's the best deal? What are they most interested in? And you've made the case, I think, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but the bigger the scope, the more interested they'll be, because there's less, I guess, risk for a single entity, let's say North Carolina football, to not deliver the revenue they're looking for.
Yeah,
The bigger the scope. In other words, if it's the entire ACC, it's a better and less risky thing for them. I would submit, what if it's the version of the Super League without the SEC and without the Big Ten? I called that the Mega League 3 years ago, Greg, with Big 12 and ACC forming some sort of partnership directed by the private equity firm that makes the Big 12 and ACC combined into the Super League that can compete with the SEC and Big Ten. Now, right now, that would be 33 teams. One of my questions for you is, if you're the private equity firm, if you want to make that 36 teams, who do you add? Who do you add from the G5? Who delivers the most value for you? Is it Memphis? What's that?
Can you I'm sorry. I'm my head is spinning. Can you repeat that last part about a G5? I understand what you're saying about the Big 12 and the ACC.
All right, so the combined, that's 33 teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to make a nice, clean 18-team Western Division and an 18-team Eastern Division, you have to add 3 teams, right? Because that's 33 total now. If you get to 36, and you're the private equity firm, and you can buy out whoever you want to make this happen, right? So who do you want? Memphis?
Who?
UConn? Memphis? UConn? You want UConn?
Yeah, you want UConn. Yeah. I am not a big believer in some sort of merger. No, I wouldn't take anything off the table. I know what you're saying. You need an even number, so then you can make your own divisions. There's a merger. It's like the Super League of the Big 12 and the ACC together, and then they can challenge the Big 10 and the SEC. I think all that sounds really good on paper, and it might happen, but I'm not a big fan of the merger. Like, I think if it would happen, I think the Big 12 would stay as the Big 12 and the ACC would stay as the ACC, and then they would both have a relationship with the private equity firm, or but going the way you're going, I would say UConn. Boy, how many do we need? 3 of them?
3. And Washington State and Oregon State, I don't know that they moved the bar enough to be.
Not you got to look at it from the perspective of the private equity, right?
Right.
So
right, exactly. That's what,
you might.
That's what I'm asking.
You probably. I think University of South Florida would be a candidate. You need one more?
Yeah. Is it Memphis?
It could be. Yeah.
So the point is, Greg, I think you can get to a 36-team model, and then they can figure out how they want to structure. You may be right that they don't move out of their home conferences, but I don't think Stanford and Cal are. I mean, if you had this structure in place, they'll be more than willing to move to the western side of this structure, right? For their sake, I don't know that they once you stand this thing up, I don't think anybody is necessarily going to any of the new arrivals to these conferences are going to be all that beholden to the Big 12 or the ACC side of it. So that's just my opinion. I guess, Greg, the ultimate jewel of that would be Notre Dame. If they could buy out Notre Dame and get them to come in, that would be priority number one. My point is, Greg, I think there's if you're private equity and you're not getting any traction with the SEC and the Big Ten, I think there's ways to go about this same Super League concept that can deliver a value-added entity for them with the Big 12 and the ACC.
I would not shut that down. I would say yes, that's a definite potential outcome. And
with Brett Yormark, I think Brett Yormark would be thinking along those lines. Get it bigger than the Big 12 footprint.
The problem with all of that is and this is why we called our show yesterday, our live show yesterday, Clemson, and this is Clemson's and Florida State's greatest leverage is all this private equity stuff, because them suing the ACC paralyzes that half of your theory, right? Private equity really doesn't want to touch the situation right now in the ACC. There's got to be a conclusion to it.
Would that entity be something that Clemson and Florida State would be? I mean, if Clemson and Florida State are not getting traction with the Big 12 and the SEC, and you've reported multiple times they're not interested and probably won't be for a few years, then what? I mean, it just seems to me like if you keep getting a no from where you want to go, then you gotta go to the best alternative.
Yep. You bring up a good point.
And so they would have to agree to settle their lawsuits or walk away from their lawsuits. It's part of the whole. I mean, I think the private equity is going to play the role as the peacemaker of all these things and the deal maker of it all. That's what those guys do, Greg. That's they come into a situation that's suboptimal financially and try to give every dollar out of it. So I don't know. It's fascinating to me. And Greg, one other point. I know I'm going long. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
So, for the SEC and the Big Ten, I have been advocating for a 3-4 and a 5-6 matchup, or you could, and I guess there's news out there talking about 3-6 versus 4-5 within those conferences. I think there's another way that those conferences are constructing themselves, or even the Big 12 constructing themselves, where you could have a 7-8 contest that same weekend, or even the week after, which there could be a relegation game within the conference, Greg. And I'm saying there's a tier 1 of the conference and a tier 2 of the conference. Tier 1, A tier teams 7 and 8 play to be loser gets relegated to tier B. Tier B, 1 and 2 play to be promoted to tier A, and only tier A teams can make the playoff. Or you can make an exception for the first team in tier B, and it gets more complicated than that. But Greg, conceptually, that's what I'm talking about. That they add another element to the end season where they get even more, they bleed more money out of it, where you have a relegation and a promotion concept within the conference. I don't know if anybody else is talking about that, but I think there's money to be had at that with teams that there's no money to be had in the week 14 or week 15. So that's my thought.
Got it. Beautiful call, sir. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Ray. Thank you for all you do.
Got it. Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah. The thing is these other stories that we've been giving you here at Peek Around the Corner, when it was the US, well, we didn't have the YouTube channel at the time, but when it was USC called the Big Ten, and we broke that story, and then the Los Angeles Times did an article on us, and when we started this YouTube channel, and we did the Washington, Oregon, and the Colorado story, and we had a really good beat on the story. Like, we knew details. We knew where that meeting was going to be taking place. We knew the date. We knew why those meetings couldn't happen the week before, a week after. There was so much that we knew. So no matter how I presented the story, we had a good idea where it was all heading to. This one's a little different because this one is frustrating. This one I know I'm going to get wrong. So I gotta kick the idea, we're going to get it wrong here at Peek Around the Corner. Because, or I'm not going to get it right. I'm not going to get it right. I know that people are working on this story. I know that people have come to completely different conclusions. And I understand why, because I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen. Again, I want to post this again because I kind of want to illustrate something. Dennis Donegan, we're at a very dangerous tipping point. Commissioner Tim Pernetti, he says private equity is inevitable. We're at a tipping point. The entrance of outside investment in college sports. He said that today. A commissioner is saying that today. A commissioner of the American Athletic Conference. And he used the word dangerous. And he used the word dangerous because it's so unknowable. I'm going to push the envelope a little bit further here. In my opinion only, this is only my opinion, not all speculation, but a mix of everything. He used the word dangerous because nobody knows what a good deal is. I mean, they all have their beliefs. They all have their theory. AAC is working on something. AAC is working on something. And they have it. But it could leave them, you play King of the Hill. You play the King of the Hill game. You're up on the top of the hill. We used to play that in Minnesota up on the big snowbanks that get used, get created because snow is being plowed in one spot to clear off a parking lot. And we were kids and we would play King of the Hill up on a big old huge snowbank. And you're up on the top of the hill and some kid knocks you down and you roll down. And then you got to climb back up and try to knock that kid out. And there's 15 kids running around playing King of the Hill. This is King of the Hill, private equity. Again, I don't want to be sued by the AAC or anybody else. I'm just saying it's dangerous. We're at a very dangerous tipping point because whatever the AAC is working on, there might be King of the Hill in the G5, but then somebody else gets a deal that completely shatters the AAC. There is a lot of fear out there. There is fear driving all this. And that is why the Big 12 and the ACC, some of the presidents of the Big 12, some of the presidents of the ACC got together. They had this meeting in Dallas and they were shown presentation. I mean, these institutions don't want to knife each other. The commissioners might, but it's why, look, the SEC and the Big Ten, there was so much fear among those two. They're having advisory groups, so there is no more fear, or less fear. And this is where we're kind of, the Big 12 wants to have the advantage of the ACC, and they kind of do because the Big 12 can do more at this point. North Carolina knows that, so they're talking all this crazy scenarios. You got stuff going on all over the place. And there's fear. We're at the tipping point. And what is frustrating about this is, even though I spent so much time on this story, other stories I spent a whole bunch of time on, and the door finally opens up. Like the June 15th door, when we said Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey left the Holy Smokes Theater. Not going to happen. No expansion. Not interested. Florida State and Clemson not the number one targets. Blah, blah, blah. We went through all that. I got raked over the coals for a month, but I knew I had the story. I knew I had the right story. I don't have the right story here. I don't know what the hell's going on. Even after all this time, I do not know what the hell's going on. And I wish I could pretend and tell you that I do, but I don't. So every day I wake up and there's a new, and these are serious people I'm talking to. I'm not talking to, we're talking to serious people. So nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what the person across the table, they don't know what cards they hold. And that is why it's so dangerous. They don't know the person across the table, what they're willing to do in the private equity world. And that is why it's so dangerous. And so the word dangerous is important. The word dangerous is important. But also the word, or I should say 2 words, tipping point. Oh yeah. We're at the tipping point. We're at the tipping point. And that is why we opened this up. The invasion of private equity. It's why we had to open up the Holy Smokes Theater. And I don't know what the hell is going to happen tomorrow or next week. Or especially when the House versus the NCAA, when that settlement gets done. Because that is a big hurdle. A big hurdle that gets removed. And suddenly the Holy Smokes Theater during this drama is going to explode. So from now on in, I'm going to do the best I can to give you the peek around the corner on this story. It's going to pick up when you've got a commissioner saying this out loud like that. And that is what is being said behind the curtain. Like that's the chatter. We did not open up this Holy Smokes Theater. We opened these things up for a reason. Because that's the chatter. And people are going crazy trying to figure out what is going to be the first wave of this. And I don't know. I do not know. I don't 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 know. So, by the way, one more thing, non-college football related. The Pentagon. The Pentagon today. No evidence the drones are from a foreign entity or adversary. And they are not U.S. military either. The drones are not foreign. And they're not ours. They're not foreign, and they're not ours. So, I guess they either don't really exist or they are hobbyists out there like Patrick, like P. Lit, like Taytown Hawk. Keep chopping. Roger Dodger. I guess they're your drones because they're not an adversary. They're not from a nation state and they're not ours. Pentagon, no evidence after all these weeks. After Langley in December of 2023, no evidence, none. So what the bleep are they? Oh, maybe they don't exist. Maybe they're all just planes. Maybe they're all just hobby. Maybe we can bring them down. God, I tell you what, 2025, it's going to get crazy. John Grove. You are probably the guilty one. You are probably the guilty one. Okay, we're going to close it up. We've been on the air for 2 hours and 11 minutes. Our plan is to go live again later tonight to cover the SEC football schedule. We're not going to be able to do it in real time. We're not going to be able to do it when they release the schedule. I'm going to be on the road. But when I get off the road, when I come back in the studio, I can't tell you what time it's going to be. Maybe 8:15 Eastern time, 8 o'clock Eastern time, sometime around there. Then we're gonna show you guys the schedules. We're gonna talk about the SEC schedules and all the breaking news that's gonna happen from then for the next 5 hours. And there is gonna be breaking news in the next 5 hours, and we're gonna cover all that. So we're gonna do a second live show tonight. It's not going to be as long as this one, but we're going to try to cover everything that happens in the next 5 hours. This is college football. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I want to thank everybody who has joined us for today. Ryan Willie, Sergeant Pickles, thank you for your generosity. I do appreciate it. Thank you for the wonderful phone calls once again and for the comments in the chat room. I do appreciate it, PATC family. Until next time, which is tonight, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.